They have seen the nuclear age and recognize its dangers. They profess confidence that peaceful competition will show welcome that kind of competition. You may recall that about 7 years ago I had a visit with Mr. Khrushchev. I told Mr. Khrushchev in that friendly exchange that we'd compete with him because he challenged me to competition and America. He said that his system was superior. And I remember his words. He said, "Senator, let us compete." And I said, "We accept the challenge, Mr. Chairman." And I said, "We shall compete you right out of Gorky Park." And I think that the results speak for themselves. And under President Johnson's inspired leadership, we are competing. And we're competing him and others right out of the Gorky Park. But there's a dangerous loophole in these declarations of peaceful intent and peaceful competition. And I speak to you for a moment about them. The communists reserve to themselves the right to support what they call wars of national liberation, which is communist double talk for any effort by communist power to seize power by force of arms in any area of the world that they so will, any hitherto free nation. And what President Johnson is seeking to do, and what President Truman did do, is to make aggression unprofitable. President Johnson is seeking to accomplish in Vietnam to convince the communists that the so-called wars of national liberation do not pay. And if these people really believe in peaceful coexistence, then we say to them in good spirit, with courage and firmness, they must practice it, and practice it all the way and all of the time, not some of the time and part of the way. President Johnson is seeking to show the Chinese communists in particular, who have a great deal more to learn than their more experienced Soviet counterparts, that war does not pay, period. That wars are expensive, costly, dangerous, that aggression is not to be the rule of nations, that aggression has too high a price tag on it to have it become the standard of international conduct. And therefore, my fellow Americans, our soldiers, sailors, and airmen once again defend freedom, once again resist aggression, this time in South Vietnam. The sons, perhaps, of some of you here in this room are in a very real sense soldiers and sailors and airmen, not of war, but of peace. And we can all be mighty proud of them. They are the best that this land has to offer. And on this platform tonight, I salute them and say thank God for them. They're making great sacrifices. This is a painful and dreadful experience. Sometimes these sacrifices are, and all too often, the supreme sacrifice, so that our children and our children's children and other people's children may live in peace. Once again, may I state for our country what we seek and what we seek to do. We seek no territory. We seek no base or colony. We seek no advantage. We seek no trade or profit. All that we seek is to have a world in which the nations will let other nations develop their way of life and develop their countries without being the victims of terror, assassination, murder, aggression. Yes, what we seek is for people to have a chance to make something out of their lives. We seek that people, nations, countries may make their contribution to the family of man as decent, peaceful people and not as warriors. Simply put, we seek peace, and we seek it with a passion, and we seek it with determination. And may I say, lest this desire for peace be misunderstood, that a strong nation need never fear to seek peace. I think history records that it is only the weak and the insecure that are afraid of peace. We who are strong in spirit, strong in our traditions, strong in our faith, yes, strong and rich and powerful, we can afford to admit our limitations and try to correct them. And we can seek peace without ever having it appear as weakness. The peace we want is not one of appeasement, the selling out of other people's rights, lives, and hopes, but it is the peace of honor, the peace that is dynamic, the peace that permits life and not death. This is our objective in Vietnam. It's just that simple. And as I boarded the plane to come to you tonight, I talked with our Secretary of State, who told me that he himself, in this past year, has had over 190 contacts with emissaries of other lands in the quest for peace. And as I breakfasted with your President yesterday morning, the President of the United States said, "Mr. Vice President, wherever you go, let the word be told decisive action when action was required in the Berlin airlift and in the United Nations action against naked aggression in Korea. These actions, my fellow Americans, were aimed at maintaining the fabric of world peace in the face of aggression or threatened aggression. And all were designed to defend freedom and to save the peace. This is why I say that this citation that carries the name of Harry S. Truman, that this citation, whoever receives it, will always belong to the man that it honors, Harry S. Truman, President of the United States. And let us never forget that we Americans have never taken up arms to commit aggression, nor have we ever taken up arms to impose our will on other peoples. And let the world know tonight, as it has throughout the many generations, we never will. And Mr. President, you also played a crucial, yes, a crucial role at the rebirth of Israel. And you have remained a friend of that gallant nation all of your life. A gallant nation, small in area, but great in spirit. In fact, I think it has the indomitable spirit of Harry Truman, and that's why it survives. Mr. President, earlier this month, at a dinner in New York City, in honor of a great friend of yours, the late Dr. Weizmann, the first president of Israel, I had the opportunity to address some remarks to some of our fellow Americans. And in preparing for that occasion, I did a little research, delving into the dramatic events of that year of 1948. I'm pleased that the year of 1948 has been spelled out here tonight in such dramatic terms. The birth of Israel, the election of President Harry S. Truman, and Hubert Humphrey. I liked all of that. Dr. Weizmann was firmly confident that misunderstandings and misconceptions surrounding Israeli independence would be cleared away if he could only speak with you personally, if he could just get to the president. And he did. And it took the two of you only about 3/4 of an hour to resolve the difficulties which lesser men on both sides had created and had been wrestling with for days, weeks, and months. When you get to the top, things happen. I think both of you must have had in mind the text from Isaiah, which is the favorite text of President Lyndon Johnson. Those words of Isaiah, "Come, let us reason together." And you did. And your reasoning was sound. And as a direct result of this meeting that I've alluded to, of two great-hearted men, the United States recognized Israel on the very day of its declaration as a state, May 14th, 1948. Mr. President, you were a great builder in your years of high responsibility, always building, always looking to the future. A builder of peace, a builder of a new Europe, a builder of the United Nations, and a builder of Israel-American friendship, and so many other good things. That's why we salute you, Mr. President, and generations yet unborn will salute this man for the building of a better world. I came to the Senate as a young man while you were president, and you opened your heart to me, and you opened the doors of your office to me and to many others. Tonight I wish to report to you. I want to report to you how we who came after you have tried to fulfill our responsibilities, how Israel is faring, and what in this holiday season are the prospects of peace on earth to all men of goodwill. Now about Israel first. There's much good news to report to you, Mr. President. When it was reborn in 1948, it had less than 800,000 people. Now it has well over 2.5 million. And these people have truly made that desert bloom. They have more than tripled the amount of land under cultivation, and the amount of reclaimed land alone has shot up from a mere 500 acres to over 84,000. New cities have been built. Mrs. Humphrey and I have visited some of those cities. Schools and hospitals have been established to educate and to heal. It is a government and a state that recognizes, and not only recognizes, but makes real the dignity of man. Exports are running at a rate over 12 times the 1948 level. But with all the aid from good people like you, sir, with all the help that people here in this room and elsewhere throughout America have given, it's the Israelis themselves who have worked this miracle in the desert. May I just say to my fellow Americans, this great, wonderful country of ours has been very generous in these years. We have contributed through grants and loans to people around the world, literally hundreds of billions of dollars. Would that every country had done as well with the aid that it had received as the state of Israel. It has set a good example. And the work of the Israelis represents a spirit that is contagious. And when you visit Israel, as many of you have, and as I have, you just want to roll up your sleeves and join in the work and get in there and help too. But you know, there's much more to Israel, just as there's much more to America than our physical achievements. I speak of its lively democratic process and how Israel has incorporated many peoples, oh so many, from different lands and cultural backgrounds into that democracy. Now, while some of the newer nations are drifting towards one-party or even one-man regimes, many parties, as the political leaders of Israel would tell you, flourish in Israel. As the results of the recent election show, the elections are spirited, hotly contested. They're almost like that election in 1948, Mr. President. And the people are given meaningful choices there as they have been here in candidates and policies. Now that's good evidence of a mature democracy at work. A democracy that works in practice as well as in theory. Moreover, this little state of Israel has not husbanded her fortune to herself. She has recognized that to be great you must serve. You do not ask, you give. Short of money, yes, but rich in real wealth, and rich and powerful in that which counts, in brains, in talent, and in spirit. She has given technical assistance, able, effective technical assistance to over 70 nations, an effort second in scope only to the United States of America. She has received and trained literally thousands of students and technicians from many other countries, something like 1,500 a year. And I'm pleased to note that the great majority of these students and technicians that have been trained in Israel then go back to their home countries to work at the jobs for which they were trained. What greater gift can any country give to another than trained people? Mr. President, this is what you offered. Point 4, technical assistance, brain power, knowledge, technology to the people that needed it. Yes, the news from Israel is good. I wish I could say as much, Mr. President, though, about our progress towards building the enduring peace that you worked for, prayed for, and gave so much towards. The enduring peace that we all seek. Since you left office 12 years ago, we've faced numerous crises and threats to the peace. The Berlin Ultimatum of 1961, the breach of the test moratorium,
one and only and very own beloved former president.
Supposed to make a speech to Senator Humphrey here, Vice President Humphrey. You know, the greatest honor that can come to a man is to be a United States Senator. And I've been one, and I feel that I have a privilege of calling him Senator if I feel like it. But with your permission, I'm going to read the citation to Vice President Humphrey in front of the mics, and then he'll reply to me in the same way. And in that way, you get a chance to hear the whole thing. Sitting off on the side, when they don't stand squarely in front of these mics, you can't hear. You can't hear the thing at all. Now, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, distinguished guests, and my good friend Van Cleburne, ladies and gentlemen, the man that we are here to honor, Vice President Hubert Humphrey, has come to a place of respect and distinction all on his own. His assets were character, intelligence, energy, and an inborn sense of public service. His was the heart. He never wavered from his original commitment. He had to overcome the natural hostilities of the people of the privilege and much anti-praise, meanness from the press. They were as mean to him as they could possibly be. I used to feel like killing somebody, everybody said. He fought the hardest. I present you the... I'm privileged to read the commendation, the Harry S. Truman Commendation Award, presented to the Honorable Hubert H. Humphrey, Vice President of the United States, whose exemplary life and career of public service express the spirit, heart, and substance of American democracy, whose vision, courage, and unique eloquence have helped to guide and strengthen the American people in times of difficulty and crisis, whose broad humanitarianism encompasses a deep-rooted concern for the well-being and progress of Israel and other freedom-loving nations as a means of hastening world understanding and peace. Presented by President Truman and bearing President Truman's signature and dated December the 19th, 1965.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you so much. Thank you. President Truman and Mr. Hips, Mayor Davis, and our good friend Minister Evren, and Rabbi Margulis Silverman, and Rabbi Solomon. And may I just say a word, too, to the distinguished Dean of the Israel Bond program here, Mr. Ullman, and to you, our dear good friend, Van Cliburn. What a wonderful, wonderful experience it has been tonight to have this distinguished artist with us. This is a rich and a rewarding evening for me, and I know it has been for you. I can only say that with the speaking ability that this gallant and distinguished artist has, plus his artistry in music, I am eternally grateful that he never entered politics. Look what happened when we had the last musician. Then I suppose that's a very selfish utterance, because I've noted that our beloved President Truman, who had this love of music, also had a love of people. And he served us with such greatness that possibly we've been denying ourselves something, Van, by not having you in the political circles. Now, in case you should venture into this path, this way of life, I want you to know that I am the one that launched you. My warm greetings to Mr. Trainin and to all of those tonight that have made possible this beautiful dinner. This is a remarkable occasion. I've been visiting with President Truman here at the table, and we have both said time and again how wonderful this gathering is in its persons, in the people that are here, and just in its general demeanor and purpose. And to have had the privilege of a concert with a dinner and a program such as this is a present for Hanukkah and Christmas that I'll never forget. And I do want you to know that our great friend and this wonderful man, President Truman, has given me his introduction and his citation in a special sheet, all signed by none other than the one and only man from Independence, Harry S. Truman, President of the United States. And I'm so happy, Mr. President, that you said all these kind things. And I'm so pleased that you have put it in writing, because I'm going to have this framed and I'm going to put it at home so Mrs. Humphrey can see it all the time. Both the President and myself have ladies that occasionally make sure that we don't, that we just don't get too big for ourselves, you know. But there are times, Mr. President, that it's good to remind them of what we've said about each other, isn't it? I'm very pleased to be here this evening, and particularly pleased that you thought of inviting me. And when I heard from President Truman, I indeed wanted to come. And I'm so happy that it was possible in our schedule to make the arrangements to share this evening with you and to indeed share your friendship. Mr. President, Mr. Hips, I'm very honored tonight to receive this Harry S. Truman Commendation Award, and to receive it from this great man, this good man, this humble man, this strong man. But Mr. President, this program is upside down. It isn't Hubert Humphrey that ought to be receiving any commendation or award. And I say this with great sincerity. I should be giving the award to you rather than the other way around.